Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Charlie State and Louise Minchin.
Our headlines today. The Taliban take control of Afghanistan. 20 years after they were forced from power, fighters enter the presidential palace in Kabul.
There were chaotic scenes at the airport as thousands of people desperately tried to leave the country.
British troops have arrived to help the UK's evacuation effort. The Prime Minister has called for a coordinated international response to the crisis.
Nobody wants Afghanistan once again to be a breeding ground for terror.
In other news, new guidelines on gun licences are to be introduced in the wake of the mass shooting in Plymouth.
Good morning. Changes to the rules on self-isolation if you're pinged by the NHS app. It could mean an end to the pingdemic for hospitality firms like this one.
And we have an exclusive interview with the Olympic champion, Tom Daley. He tells me why he's taking some time out before deciding whether to continue with diving. And I even got to try on that famous Olympic cardigan.
Good morning. This week's looking fairly quiet weather-wise. At times there'll be a lot of cloud. There'll be some patchy light rain and drizzle. And temperatures, well, there's no sign of the summer heat. I'll have all the details coming up in half an hour.
Good morning. It's Monday, the 16th of August. Our main story this morning, the Taliban have seized control of Afghanistan and declared the war in the country is over after their forces took the capital, Kabul.
President Ashraf Ghani has fled the country. There have been chaotic scenes at Kabul airport where hundreds of Afghans have been trying to leave. Britain, the United States and other Western nations are continuing military operations to evacuate their citizens. Our correspondent Graham Satchell has the latest.
On board a plane due to leave Kabul overnight, but at the last minute they're told the flight won't be going. Passengers are forced to rejoin the chaos outside. There is panic and fear everywhere. For 20 years, Afghanistan has had stability, democracy and relative safety. It's all ended in a matter of days. A lucky few have made it out. This is Delhi airport and a mix of relief, anger and despair.
I can't believe the world abandoned Afghanistan. Our friends are going to get killed. They're going to kill us. Our women are not going to have any more rights.
The Taliban, forced from power by Western troops 2 decades ago, are back. They claim to have taken over every government department, including this, the presidential palace in Kabul. Just hours earlier, the former president Ashraf Ghani at the same desk. He's now fled to Uzbekistan. In a statement, he said he's left to avoid bloodshed. Kabul is a city on the move, residents desperate to escape. Fear of what is to come has gripped every level of society, including former government ministers.
Deep down in my heart, I keep telling myself I won't have to pay the price for joining a government position. But now I might face consequences that I never even dreamed of. And I guess that's the price that we pay for trying to make this world a little better than when we came to it, and particularly Afghanistan.
British troops have now arrived in Kabul to evacuate UK nationals and Afghans who worked with them. It's thought around 4,000 in total are eligible to be airlifted out. Criticism of the chaos now engulfing Afghanistan is widespread. Parliament will be recalled on Wednesday to debate the crisis. A protest outside the White House in Washington. America has long argued its troops couldn't stay in Afghanistan forever, and public opinion supports troop withdrawal. But serious questions are now being asked. Why was so much money spent, so many military lives lost, to simply allow the Taliban to walk back into power? The air over Kabul is full of helicopters as diplomats and embassy staff make their escape. On the ground, the people wait with growing fear. It was not meant to end like this. Graham Satchell, BBC News.
Well, more than 60 countries, including the US, UK and Australia, have issued a joint statement urging the Taliban to allow people to leave Afghanistan if they want to.
Let's speak to our political correspondent, Helen Katz, who joins us. Morning to you. And things have unfolded so quickly, haven't they? Just tell us what, from a political point of view, from the government here, is going to happen.
Yeah, as you said, this is all moving so fast. So the government's absolute priority is getting those British nationals, those eligible Afghans, out of the country as quickly as possible. You heard in Graham's report there, they think there's about 4,000 people. We were told yesterday that the British ambassador in Afghanistan was at Kabul airport himself helping to process those applications. So that is the absolute immediate priority for the government. But they are also having to talk diplomatically to other countries. Boris Johnson was saying yesterday that he was very aware that he didn't want other like-minded countries to what he called prematurely recognise the Taliban. He said there would be a new regime, but they didn't know exactly what it would be. He also said the UK would work with the UN Security Council and other NATO countries to stop Afghanistan lapsing back into terror.
Nobody wants Afghanistan once again to be a breeding ground for terror, and we don't think that it's in the interests of the people of Afghanistan that it should lapse back into that state, that pre-2001 state.
You expect to hear more of those concerns about what will happen to the future of Afghanistan on Wednesday, when, of course, Parliament is being recalled from its summer break for a day so that MPs can discuss the situation. There are also calls this morning, as you mentioned, for what happens to those Afghans who do not want to stay in Afghanistan under the Taliban. What routes, what possibility is there for them to leave the country? And as you mentioned, there is this joint statement by more than 60 countries which call on senior people in Afghanistan to allow them to leave. It says that those in positions of power and authority across Afghanistan bear responsibility and accountability for the protection of human life, and that the Afghan people deserved to live in safety, security and dignity. Here, the Liberal Democrats are calling on the government to help establish what they're calling a safe passage corridor, a secure route to allow to an international border to allow Afghans who want to leave to be able to do so safely and securely. So those are the immediate concerns. There's also been some political criticism actually of the Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab after it emerged that he appears to have been on holiday. Now the Foreign Office says that he has been personally coordinating the response. He was due to return yesterday, but Labour have said that he has been AWOL and has said that is shameful.
Helen Katz, thank you very much for that update. Now, police, just to let you know as well, actually, we'll be talking to the Defence Secretary Ben Wallace at 7:30 here on the programme. In other news this morning, police forces in England and Wales are being asked by the Home Office to review the way they deal with firearms applications following the mass shooting in Plymouth.
A minute's silence will also be observed today to remember the 5 victims. Let's go to our reporter, Sarah Ransom, who's came in before us this morning. Sarah, there have been a lot of calls for tighter rules on who can own a firearm, and in amongst that, it's going to be a very difficult day for a lot of people with this moment of silence later this morning.
Yes, it absolutely is. And those calls that you talk about there, Charlie, well, they're getting ever louder as questions intensify about just who can have a firearm, particularly in the light of the fact that we know now that Jake Davison, the gunman who carried out this atrocity just last Thursday, why he had a gun in the first place, and why, when his licence was revoked following an allegation of serious assault, why that licence was returned to him just a few weeks ago. Now, that decision is being investigated by the police watchdog, the Independent Office for Police Conduct. And as you say, the Home Office today is asking all police forces in England and Wales to take a look again at the kind of policies and procedures that they go through when they issue a firearms licence. And they're also talking about possibly introducing in the future guidance on social media checks for any applicant. So you'll also remember that Jake Davison, the 22-year-old who committed these crimes here, he repeatedly posted hate-filled rants on his own social media outlets. Now, all of that, of course, little comfort to the people who live round here, who witnessed what went on that quiet summer's evening. They will have been laying tributes here, floral tributes here. They've been taking part in vigils over the weekend. There will be another chance for that to happen today when the city is invited to fall silent to remember those who died here. And it's hoped that other people around the UK will also take a moment to grieve and take part in that sharing of collective grief.
Sarah, for the moment, thank you.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.